ولا تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا الكريم محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فإن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. أعاذني الله وإياكم من النار. ثم أيها الإخوة والأخوات, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, as how He Jalla wa Ala deserve it. And then we send our salat and our salam upon the best of mankind, our Nabi, our Prophet Muhammad, and upon his families and his companions and those that are upon their way. And after that, we continue on with our weekly sittings, which regards to the book Al-Arba'un An-Nawawī, the 40 hadith compiled by Al-Hafidh An-Nawawī Yahya ibn Sharaf rahimahullah ta'ala. And in our lessons, we had reached to the hadith number 4, Al-Hadith Al-Rabi', the 4th hadith. And that is the hadith of Abu Abdurrahman Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. And in our previous sitting in specific, then we had started to read the text of the hadith, both in the Arabic version as well as the English version. And then we had talked a bit of the narrator of the hadith, that is Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. And we had explained that when talking about a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then when we talk about their virtues are of two types. The general virtues where every single one of the companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has that virtue. It relates to every single person who met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who believed in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and entered Islam, and he died upon that belief and upon Islam. Every person who has these three conditions will have the general virtue of a companion. And the second type of virtue, which relates to the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will be the specific virtue, where we talk about a specific companion from the many companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It might be that there are certain verses and there are certain hadith, or there are certain positions and statuses which relates to a specific companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he or she has that specific virtue over the others from the companions, from the many companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we had mentioned about Abdullah ibn Mas'ud with regards to his general virtues of being a companion, as well as some of the specific virtues of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. And we had talked about his name, and we had talked about his kunya. What is he famously known as? from that is Abu Abdurrahman, and from that also is Ibn Abd. And we had talked about the difference between a kunya and a name, and some ways of the Arabs when they use the kunya. Why do they use the kunya? We had mentioned one of them, that a kunya is used to elevate and to raise a person's status, and if it is in that manner, then a person, he does not use it to himself often. He does not refer to himself as a kunya with his kunya always and every single time, because this is raising and elevating his own status, and this is wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in the Quran, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اتَّقَى, and do not give recommendations to yourselves, for verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows who has more taqwa over the other. Naam. And then we had talked about the importance of reading and knowing the biographies of the companions, and how is it a must for a Muslim to read and to know the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that he or she will know the status and the rank of the companion in the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why are they so important? What have they put forth their physical selves and from their wealth for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What these individuals had put forth for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of protecting the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for the sake of protecting the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of preserving the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it's not for Allah and then the Prophet and then the Sahaba, then the religion, barakallahu fikum, would not have reached to us. And therefore, barakallahu fikum, the companions deserve a place in our lives. They deserve our supplications, and they deserve for us to seek forgiveness for them, and so on. Naam. And then we had started also to talk about the collector of the hadith, that is Al-Imam Al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala, and Al-Imam Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala, and we had talked about them from the very beginning. And therefore, if a person, he follows our classes and he follows our sittings, then there will be no excuse to not know who these two great individuals, who is Al-Imam Al-Bukhari, who is Al-Imam Muslim, and what are their status in our religion, and what are the status of their books in our religion. Naam. We had talked about them many times. What are their names? When did they die? What have they written? What are their books? Who are their teachers? Who are their students? What have they done? What are the rank of their books, especially the two Sahih? Naam. In the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we had talked about them plenty of times. There is no excuse for a person who follows our classes to not know any of them. And then also we had started to talk about the terms in the hadith, the terms that we find that it is beneficial and it is a need for us to further talk about them and explain them in detail, so that when we come to the place where we are going to talk about the benefits of the hadith, a person, he knows what we are talking about. A person, he knows what these terms are when we go through the benefits of the hadith at the end, insha'Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And therefore, the first term that we had went through is the term nutfah. Inna ahadakum yujma'u khalquhu fi batni ummihi 40 yawman nutfatan. Nutfah. So the word nutfah, as how we had mentioned last week, linguistically it means a droplet. Linguistically it means a droplet. or a drop of clear water, and it can also mean a drop of a male's semen. And what is meant here in this hadith in specific is the state where the sperm had already entered the egg of the female. The state where the sperm of a male had already fertilized the egg of the female. This is what is meant here in this hadith as the term nutfah. And it will remain in this state as how we had mentioned, or it will be known to be in this state for a whole 40 days. For a whole 40 days. And every one of the stages that we will mention later on, all of them individually will take a whole 40 days. Each one of the stages will take a whole 40 days. And as how I believed I had mentioned it also in the last lesson, do not think that 40 days it stays stagnant and then immediately on day 41 it will immediately change into the next stage, or it will grow to the next stage. It's not like that. Rather, when we say that this stage takes a whole 40 days, this stage of a nutfah takes a whole 40 days, na'am, yes, the stage as a whole is known as the stage of a nutfah. But from the beginning of that 40 days all the way to the end of the 40 days, this thing that is known as the nutfah will gradually changes and grow. It will gradually changes and it will gradually grow up to a point where it will, on the day 41, on the 41st day, it will be move on to the next stage. So it will gradually grow. It will gradually grow on into the next stage, as how we had gave as an example. For example, we have a circle, and this thing will remain as a circle for a whole 40 days, and at day number 41 it will change into a square. It does not mean that from day 0 to day 40 the circle will remain as a circle and then day 41 it will change suddenly into a square. No, from day 0 to day 40 this circle will gradually change itself into a square, where when we reach day 41 the look of it is a whole square. So this is how it changes. It changes gradually, it grows gradually. And the same thing here, from day 0 to day 40 the whole stage is known as the stage of a nutfah, but the droplet, or when the semen, when the sperm of a man fertilizes the egg, then from day 0 to day 40 it will gradually grow itself. It will gradually changes to the next stage. This is what is meant by the stages, or the stages that are 40 days each individually. The next term is the term alaqah. The next term is the term alaqah. Alaqah, linguistically, it can mean blood in general. Linguistically, alaqah can mean blood in general. Linguistically, it can mean blood in general. And here in this hadith in specific, it means a clot of blood after the stage of being a nutfah. A clot of blood after the stage of being a nutfah. And it starts from day 41 and it ends the stage. The stage starts from 41, day number 41, all the way to the 80th day. Another 40 days. Another 40 days. So it enters the second stage, that is the stage of a alaqah, for another 40 days. For another 40 days, meaning now the egg is being fertilized by the sperm. This stage is known as the stage of nutfah, and then it gradually grows itself and it gradually changes itself into an alaqah. From day number 41, it will be now, from that egg that is fertilized, it will now become a clot of blood. A clot of blood from day number 41, and it will gradually grow itself as well for another 40 days. And at the end of the day number 80th, it will grow into the third stage. It will grow into the third stage. Naam, so this is alaqah. Alaqah, generally it can mean blood, but here in this hadith in specific, it means a clot of blood. A clot of blood. And it is known as alaqah. And again, the stage is also 40 days, 40 whole days, and it ends at the day number 80th. Day number 80, 80th day. The next term is mithlu dhalik. Mithlu dhalik. As how it is mentioned in the hadith. ثم يكون علاقة مثل ذلك. مثل ذلك. مثل ذلك linguistically translates to for a like or a similar period of time. For a like or similar period of time. And what? Similar. So mithal means similar. And what is being meant by similar? Meaning the time of it. Meaning the same number of days. The same number of 40 days. It will be an alaqah for the same number of 40 days. As how it was mentioned in the first stage, will be in that stage for 40 days. Then when it grows to the second stage, it will take the same number, the same similar period of time, which is 40 days. Naam, as mentioned also, all of these different stages takes 40 days each. 40 days being a nutfah, then 40 days being an alaqah, and so on, all the way to the last stage. Wadah. The next term, mudghatun. Mudghatun. And it is from the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ثُمَّ يَكُونُ مُضْغَةً مِثْلَ ذَلِكَ. And then it will be a mudghah for the same period of time. A mudghah, barakallahu fikum, is a piece of flesh. Linguistically, it means a piece of flesh. This is generally. And the reason why is it called a mudghah? Why is it called a mudghah? Because a mudghah is the amount of meat. A mudghah is the amount of meat that is enough to be able to be chewed with. A mudghah is the amount of meat that is enough to be able to be chewed with. You know, you chew the meat, you chew your food. So a mudghah is the amount of meat that is enough to be chewed with. Because now, from an egg where we cannot see it with our eyes, then it becomes a clot of blood. It becomes a clot of blood. And then it gradually grows itself. From that blood, it becomes a flesh of meat. And it still keeps on growing. And when it reaches the third stage, from day number 81 all the way to day number 120, it will keep on growing. From day number 81, it is now known as a mudghah. It is now known as a mudghah, where it is the amount of a meat, from being a clot of blood, now meat the meat starts to form, and this meat is in the amount where it is able, or is able for a person to chew with it. The amount of meat where a person is able to chew with it. And again, the end of this stage is day number 120. The end of it is the day number 120. The next term is the term al-malak. Al-malak. And we had already took it in one of the hadith before this. And quickly, as a quick recap, al-malak translates to the angel. And al-malak is the singular form, and the plural form is malaika, angels. The singular term is al-malak, and the plural term is al-malaika. One of the angel is al-malak. Many of the angels are al-malaika. And previously also we had taken about what does the word al-malak means, where does it been taken from, where it is taken from the word al-ma'laka or ma'luka, and it is derived from the word al-aluka. Al-aluka contains the meaning of ar-risala, the message, and the malaika is named as al-malaika because they are in charge of conveying or delivering any matters of Allah to His creations. So the word malaika has a meaning of ar-risala, which is message, the message. Why? Because the malaika, from their job is that they are to convey or to deliver any matters of Allah to His creations. And also we had talked about the meaning of al-malaika legislatedly. They are a creation from the creations of Allah, created out of light, and they are only created for to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. They do not disobey Allah at all when being commanded, and they will perform anything that Allah had commanded. Na'am. We had talked about them in specific in the hadith of Jibril alayhi salam in al-iman bil malaika. How do a person believe in the angels of Allah? And it is from the pillars of al-iman. So a person, he may and she may return back to that explanation where we had talked about it in detail. The next term is the term ar-ruh. Ar-ruh. And ar-ruh translates to the soul of a person. The soul, S-O-U-E, the soul of a person. And when talking about souls, then we will talk about them in further detail, insyaAllah tabaraka wa ta'ala, when we come onto the benefits of the hadith, insyaAllah tabaraka wa ta'ala. The next term is the term ar-rizqu. Ar-rizqu. From the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, bi katbi rizqihi. So ar-rizq is translated into provisions or sustenances. Provisions or sustenances. And if you are going to be general, then we can also say everything that is benefited by a person. Every single thing that is being benefited by a person is considered to be from his rizq. Every single thing that is being benefited by a person, or that can be benefited by a person, will be known as a rizq, as a provision, as a sustenance. Anything that is benefited by a person can be known as a rizq. The next term, al-ajal. Al-ajalu, from the statements of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, bikatbi rizqihi wa ajalihi. So al-ajal here in this hadith, it means lifespan. Lifespan, the lifespan of a person's life. The lifespan of it, the duration of a person's life, the lifespan. And when will a person's death be? So al-ajal is the lifespan of a person, the duration of his time in this worldly life. And when is his death? And that point of time, when he meets death, then that is his ajal. That is his lifespan. That is his end of the lifespan. That is the last of his lifespan. That is the last of his duration in the worldly life. That is his ajal. The next term, al-amal. Bikatbi rizqihi wa ajalihi wa amalihi. Wa amal. Al-amal means actions and deeds. Al-amal here, this term al-amal here translates to actions and deeds. And what is meant here in this hadith is whether are they good deeds or bad deeds. General, just any deeds, any kind of deeds, any kind of actions, whether are they good or whether are they evil and bad. And also here when we talk about al-amal, it is not only about what relates to what relates about doing something. Al-amal here in this hadith does not only talk about what relates to doing something, rather it also includes leaving off something as well. Rather it includes leaving off something as well, due to the fact that doing something is an action and leaving off something is an action as well. Doing something is an action and leaving off something is an action as well. So al-amal here is general. It consists or it comprises of both doing something as well as leaving off something. So this is al-amal. The next term is the term shaqiyun. Shaqiyun. The next term is the term shaqiyun. And shaqiyun, barakallahu fikum, is the opposite of being happy. A shaqi is the opposite of being happy. We have said before that when explaining or defining a word, we can define a word through its definition as how it is, and we can define also by saying what the opposite of it is. You can define something by mentioning that this is the opposite of something. What is hot? Hot is the opposite of cold. Hot is the opposite of cold. What is cold? Cold is the opposite of hot. So when you say that in this manner, this is also from the ways of the ulama in defining terms. From the ways of the ulama in defining terms is to mention that this is the opposite of this. This is the opposite of that. Because some terms, the more you explain it, the more you try to put it into words, the more it becomes misunderstood. The more it becomes difficult to understand. And the more it goes away from what it truly is. Barakallahu fikum. There are some things, like for example, when I say anger, define me anger. If you try to define anger, you might only define the result of anger. You might only define what anger does to a person. But you cannot literally define what is anger. You cannot put it into words what is really anger. So for you to put anger into words will only further complicate it, will only further led people to misunderstand what is anger. And they will start to explain anger by the result of anger. ghalayanul qalb, ghalayanul qalb, the boiling of the heart. This is not anger, this is the result of anger. So barakallahu fikum, there are certain terms where it suffices and it is more clear for you to say this is the opposite of something, this is the opposite of that. Or you can also say, from the ways of the ulama, is to say al-ma'ruf. Al-ma'ruf meaning what is known. Like for example, define me a bird. A bird is a known animal. That's it. A person know what, when you say a bird, a person, you just need to say this is a known animal. Because if you further try to explain, it might further cause more complications than misunderstanding. And so back to where we are. Shaqiyun is the state that is the opposite of being happy. The state of that is the opposite of being happy, unhappy. And here it means not filled with happiness. It means that it is not filled with happiness. As why? Because because a shaqiyun in the hereafter will not be filled with happiness, as he is being punished with the fire. A shaqiyun, a person that is filled with unhappiness. Why? Because he is being punished with the fire. The next term, sa'idun. Sa'idun. And sa'idun is the opposite of shaqiyun. Sa'idun is the opposite of Sa'idun is the opposite of shaqiyun. So sa'idun is happy. Is happy. The feeling of happy, and it is a known feeling. Again, look at how happiness is being defined. A known feeling. When you say, explain to me happiness, happiness is a known feeling. Happiness is a known feeling. Because if you try to explain what happiness is, you might not really explain what is happiness. Rather, you are explaining the result of being happy. You are explaining other things surrounding happiness, but you are not able to say what is happiness by itself. And therefore, it is suffice to say happy is a known feeling. It's a known feeling. And here in this hadith, a sa'idun, a person who is filled with happiness in the hereafter, a person that is filled with happiness in the hereafter, due to the fact that he is being rewarded with the paradise of Allah. Due to the fact that he is being rewarded with the paradise of Allah. And the next term that we are in need of explaining from this hadith is the term ذراع. حتى ما يكون بينه وبينها إلا ذراع. ذراع. ذراع, linguistically, for a human, a ذراع, linguistically for a human being. Some says that it is from the tip of the middle finger. It is from the tip of the middle finger to the elbow. It is a measurement. A dhira is a measurement from the tip of a person's middle finger when it is stretched out all the way to his elbow. All the way to his elbow. Some says that this is dhira. The Arabs, barakallahu fikum, they were not used to they were not used to use the measurements of meter, centimeter, kilometer, miles, whatsoever. Rather, they use something that they are witnessing. They use to measure distances by an arm's length. They used to measure distances by by even the time of traveling, a day's travel, and so on. So, barakallahu fikum, this is what the Arabs used to use for a measurement. So here, ذراع is a unit of measurement, and it's, some of the ulama says that it starts from the tip of the middle finger when it is stretched out, normally opened, all the way to an elbow of a person, and this is a ذراع. And a normal average, from a normal average person, meaning not a person who's too long, not a person who's too short, an average of a person, where we count it from the tip of his middle finger when it is being stretched out open all the way to his elbow. And this is according to some of the ulama. And there are also others from the ulama that says that it is from the wrist of a person, the wrist of a person, the wrist of a person all the way to his elbow, the wrist of a person to his elbow. And so this opinion of some of the ulama makes a ذراع shorter than the previous opinion. A ذراع is the second opinion is a much shorter measurement of length in compared to the first group of ulama. And so a ذراع, barakallahu fikum, is a known unit of measurement that is being used by the Arabs. And some of the ulama who try to convert them into centimeters, they say that it's about 64 cm in average, 64 centimeters in average. Naam. And so these are some of the terms that we find to be beneficial. We find them to be beneficial and a need for us to further explain and further talk about them, so that when we come to the benefits of the hadith, then we are able to go through it smoothly. With this we will end, as it is insha already. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.